Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. Wait, don't go yet. You might be thinking, what the hell? That looks like StarCraft 2. What is that doing on this channel? Well, this, in my opinion, has a little bit of cross-appeal because I'm starting a little series right here which chronicles the development of our mod. We are creating a mod for StarCraft 2, so I thought it would be kind of neat to look at the various stages of creation, look at the various prototypes, iterations, talk through our thought process, and the various challenges we're facing in regards to designing this. So, it's a two-man team behind this project. It's me and the actual map editor, so the guy who's got the talent in terms of making the map, and I'm the ideas guy. I'm also paying the guy so I can get away with that crap and look really posh and smug on my big chair while he slaves away with the Galaxy editor. So, modding has been the lifeblood of PC gaming for quite some time, and it's resulted in some amazing things, including brand new subgenres being created. For instance, tower defense. That's a subgenre that was created by modders. How about MOBAs, Dota-style games? That was created by modders. Modders increase the lifespan of a game, are in general quite innovative, give you all sorts of different options, and increase the value of games that you buy, as well, I might add, as well as giving us all sorts of innovative and crazy ideas that do sometimes shake up the games industry. Now, we don't expect this to shake up the games industry because this is a mod map for StarCraft 2 we are calling Trollobattles. And I'm going to load it in and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on with it. And this is going to be a series of videos where each time I show you this game, it's going to be a little bit better, because we've developed it and we've added new features and we've maybe put some balance in. So please bear in mind before we start, this is the first prototype. This was knocked up in a day. So this is lacking almost everything you can possibly imagine. It's got all sorts of issues, but I'm going to try and show you what we're aiming to do with this particular game type. Alright, so let's load in, shall we? This is a replay that we captured earlier using two of the mods from my stream as guinea pigs. Alright. So you'll notice that absolutely nothing has spawned yet. This isn't showing in the replay properly. What should be showing up is a voting screen. But it's not doing that because it only shows the voting screen to these four people here, and I'm a replay observer. So we're just going to fast forward here. Now the voting screen allows you to vote on who's going to play. This is what's called an observer game type. Alright, we're going to pause right here because there are a couple of things you need to look at. First, you need to understand the concept of Trollobattles. Trollobattles is an observer game type mode whereby two people play a game of StarCraft 2, and the voting procedure right there was to vote for the people who are actually going to play. So a bunch of friends get together on Trollobattles, and they elect two people to play out a battle, and everybody else is a godlike entity, as you can see here, called the Trollcraft. And this is a mothership that spins around and has an infestor riding around on it, because, hey, why not? And yes, Kotlo was rather confused by that. In the final version, we're aiming to have this infestor ship, probably keep it, but it'll be invisible to everybody, unless there's a specific circumstance where it shouldn't be. Now, we've got two plays here. You've got Even, who is the map designer, and myself right there. And then your two players who are both playing Protoss at this time. Now, the purpose of Trollobattles is to allow people to screw with a game of StarCraft 2. And they can do so in a variety of amusing ways, and we will be able to demonstrate some of those ways very shortly indeed. This is a very basic version with, this was like the first round of abilities that we put in there as ideas, stuff that we can actually do with the game. These Trollcraft, as you can see, are building up energy, and I'm just going to head over here, and eventually I'll do something. And as they build up energy, they're able to use a variety of different abilities, which will either help or hinder the contestants on the field. In the final version, we aim to have a massive amount of different abilities. At the moment, we've just thrown in a couple for testing purposes. So, first thing we're going to do is, we're going to turn this guy into minerals, because hey, why not? That's called Transmogrify. We'll probably call it something cool like Midas Touch or something. It has turned that unit into a rich mineral field. And depending on what unit you turn into minerals, depends on how many minerals are generated. So we turn that probe into minerals and it can't build anything because it doesn't exist anymore. There are a number of other things that you are able to do to screw around. In fact, he's actually going to mine the minerals right now. That is one of my favorites. Let me just show that to you again. I really, really like that This ability is called Eject. Now, we're going to slow this down to the slowest we can get it. Let's keep an eye on that probe. Watch what it does. And right about now. So Eject actually launches a creature, I suppose, any kind of unit into space. It's rather wonderful. It's like, whee! And it disappears. It explodes. It's rather amusing, honestly. As you can see right there, it uses 125 energy. So if we were to go through the other abilities, energy transfer, this is in there at the moment to allow you to transfer energy to a different observer. And I'll explain why that's there momentarily. Just going to launch another unit into space there. Please bear in mind, once again, this is a prototype version used for testing. This is in no way balanced at all right now. So you've got Cloak, you can cloak a target unit. You've got Empower. Empower allows you to massively buff a unit right there. This is the big ability we've got in at the moment, Hysteria. It causes units in a target area to go into a killing frenzy, attacking anything nearby, and that lasts for 20 seconds. There's also Control, which allows you to control a individual unit. So I'm hanging over here, getting Hysteria ready, if I recall correctly. Let's go into Hysteria range, and as you can see, the probes are now attacking each other, causing all sorts of mischief. And that pretty much covers the abilities that you've got, aside from this one, which is Restore. This will actually allow you to rapidly heal a unit. So that's one of the things you can do to help a player. Alright, so you've seen the abilities in action. The question is, why do you have these? Well, a while ago on the stream, we came up with a game mode which allowed the mods to handicap me, because I was playing against a Bronze Leaguer who barely ever played StarCraft 2, so it was kind of pointless. Because we knew that I would win the battle, unless, of course, they did something to stop me. And we came up with what we call Trollobattles, whereby the moderators could choose a unit which I could build, and I could build only that unit for a certain amount of time. So it's kind of like anyone that's played Day 9's Mono Battles, it's kind of like that. Except every 4 minutes, they would switch it up. So if I couldn't build that unit at that point, I had to tech up in order to get it. So they were able to screw around with me to create some interesting results. And we thought we'd make this an entire game mode, but we'd expand upon the concept. And more so than anything, this is kind of inspired by a game called Populous. You might remember that. I'm sure you do. Populous was a god game developed by Peter Molyneux very, very long time ago. And in that game, you had a series of godly powers which would allow you to influence the battle, but you had no direct control over the battle. Here's kind of similar. I can use these various godlike powers to interfere with what's going on. However, in the full version, we aim to have an awful lot more of this. There's going to be menus upon menus of different powers. Some are going to be focused on very individual things, like controlling an existing unit, blowing one up, or something along those lines. And there are going to be some much more major powers. For instance, Hysteria is a very powerful ability right now. It can completely screw you up in a fight. It can do all sorts of horrendous things to you. So what we aim to do is to create a mod that has 3 different modes. And these 3 different modes are various different concepts which work in different ways. The first thing we want to do is create a Dungeon Master style mode called Overseer. Now, Overseer, you have a single observer who has one of these craft with basically infinite energy. He can create a scenario, and his job is to make a fun and entertaining and hilarious scenario for everyone who's currently playing the game. And as a result, he'll have infinite energy, so it's pretty much a sandbox mode for the Overseer. Now, the next mode, which we expect to be the sort of public mode, is what we like to call Competitive Chaos. Now, in Competitive Chaos, in fact, it's Cooperative Chaos. I keep getting these mixed up. There's actually 2 modes, Competitive Chaos and Cooperative Chaos. Alright, so what's the difference between Competitive Chaos and Cooperative Chaos? What's the difference between the 2? So, these 2 game modes, the other 2 game modes of the 3 that we're envisioning for this, have different purposes. We think that Cooperative Chaos will probably be the most popular mode. And the purpose of Cooperative Chaos is to kind of do what we're doing here, but much, much more advanced. So the point is, each player that is observing has one of these trollcraft. It may look like this, it may not. It might look like something completely different. I think we'll have the auto camera off there for a second, because it's god-awful. They're each going to have one of these, and maybe not, it might be the mothership with the infestor on top. The mod maker's kind of obsessed with putting infestors on things, so I don't know, that might end up happening. We might keep that. Everyone in Cooperative Chaos is going to have one of these, and they're going to build up what we call rage energy. And rage energy can be used to interfere with the game in some way. Now, right now, these things are building up absurd amounts of energy. Like, they've got 1,000 energy each. We can do all this stuff, and this is not balanced at all. This is purely for demonstration and testing purposes. I'm also not screwing with Bunny at the moment. I'm not sure why that is. Oh, never mind, I am screwing with Bunny. I'm pretty sure I turned half his army to gold there, but hey. They're going to build up energy, rage energy, much, much, much slower than this, and they'll be able to do little things, like, say, they could spend rage energy to lower a supply depot, or to power off a pylon for 5 seconds, to slow down building, something like that. And as they build up more and more energy, they're able to spend it on more powerful things. However, this is cooperative chaos. That means that you and your fellow Trollcraft will have to build up energy and actually contribute towards their much more powerful abilities. For instance, Hysteria. Hysteria is ridiculously powerful and can completely screw up a fight. So giving that to one person, no, that's simply not going to happen. So what's likely going to happen is that we're trying to figure out the best way of doing this at the moment. Either you're going to be able to use this energy transfer ability to give some energy to somebody else, and then they will be able to activate the ability, and you guys will have to talk in the chat and decide what you want to do, and that's where the interactivity comes in, that's where the cooperation comes in, because all of this really cool stuff, you can't do it on your own. You're gonna have to have everyone on the observer side cooperate in order to pull this kind of hilarity off. Or, what we'll do is we will allow the players to contribute to a communal rage pool. Yeah, and then they will be able to use a voting system to vote on what they want to do with that rage, which will unlock that ability, and then you will actually put it into play. So the really powerful stuff, including global events, you will not be able to do on your own. Now, as to how much energy is generated, that's going to scale depending on how many people are in the game. So let's just say, obviously, the minimum amount of observers for that mode is 2, because otherwise it might as well just be Overseer mode, because Overseer is the one observer Dungeon Master mode for this game type. Say if we've got 2 in, you're going to generate rage energy pretty quickly, because we want it to be at the same pace as it would be if you had 8 observers. However, if you have 8 observers, each individual person is going to generate energy slower, but communally, you get more energy in total. So you'll be able to donate and transfer around and make things happen regardless. For things like the massive abilities, I suppose the worldwide abilities, as we can call them there, the global events, you're going to have to spend a lot of resources in order to do that. Now, we envision a number of categories for abilities and crazy stuff that you can implement into the game. That big hallucination right there, the Hysteria ability, we envision that to be one of a set of powerful area of effect abilities. There are also going to be these very small things, as I mentioned earlier, that are designed to allow players to spend a small amount of energy to affect something in the game world. And some of these may have cooldowns on them depending on how we actually decide to balance it. And then you're going to be looking at these big worldwide hazards and these abilities which require a lot of contribution from the various observers. The idea of, say, a big lightning storm which randomly strikes across the map. The idea of a large enemy hybrid creature which spawns in the center of the map and goes on a rampage, attacking whatever is nearby. A gigantic swarm of zerglings, a set of mines, for instance, baneling mines placed at random on the map. You know how marshes used to work in Populous? Kind of like that. A massive volcano, for instance, erupting in the middle of the map or in a area of the map. And we're even envisioning different kinds of things, like a small volcano, a large volcano, a random volcano, a targeted volcano, all sorts of different stuff like that. So if you want a completely chaotic game, you could basically spend your energy into random events that would happen pretty much anywhere on the map. If you wanted to direct the game, more specifically, if you wanted to, say, screw over the guy who has a big advantage and make it a bit more equal, or just cause a bunch of havoc, then you could direct the ability, you could target it. That might cost more rage, for instance. It might even be less effective of an ability, but you can target it, so that's kind of helpful in that respect. The other mode that we're talking about at the moment is competitive chaos. Competitive chaos is a melee mode by which you have 2 or more players, and each of those players has a patron deity. And this deity will come in the form of the Trollcraft right here. It'll basically be their god. And they pray to their god in order to have their god help them. And they will be able to communicate with the god, perhaps or perhaps not. We're thinking on whether or not we want that to be able to happen. The thing is, it's probably going to end up happening anyway, because we envision this kind of game mode to be played between friends. So I imagine some communication will end up happening, and obviously it's not a serious game mode by any stretch. But the point is that this guy, say, if I was the patron of Kotlol, then I would be trying to help him out and hinder my opponent as much as possible. But the other guy would also have a patron god, and that guy would be trying to help him out and hinder the other person as much as possible. And hell, we might even have some kind of combat between the two gods one way or the other. If I have various abilities that could cause problems for those gods, for instance, maybe I can use an ability that locks down my opponent in place for 5 seconds, so he can't actually move over to the right side of the map in order to enact these abilities. So that's the basic concept of Trollobattles, and we've got an awful lot of work to do on it. We've got to put in a lot of different abilities. In my opinion, it's kind of the more the merrier. We want to make it feature-rich first so we can test it and make it a vibrant game mode, and then look into balancing it. One of the most important things we're looking at the moment is the ability to give warnings to people. For instance, all of these abilities we're using right now, they're kind of annoying. Like, I can instantly destroy a unit. There's nothing that the player can do about it. What we want to do is allow almost every ability to have a leeway, a bit of a warning. So it will allow the player to react to it. For instance, eject. Maybe, just maybe, that would start from under the ground. These rocket boosters begin moving, and maybe you have to then perform a specific action in order to save the unit. There are already some that work this way. Like, for instance, if I use Ignite in the middle of that mineral line, then what Bunny needs to do is to move away from the unit that's on fire, because that's going to inflict AoE damage. However, you don't really have a lot of time to react to that, especially bearing in mind that a lot of the people who are going to be playing this game mode are quite low level. So we're looking into giving people a warning, and that's actually going to be done vocally via the form of riddles. And these riddle-style voiceovers I'll be recording for the game, and each ability has a set of different voices that will go out for it. Various vocal phrases which warn you as to what's going on. So it's kind of like having an evil overlord in your game, and he's going to make some kind of remark about something that's about to happen, and that gives you a short period of time to react to that. So that's really one of our priorities there. We think this game mode is going to be pretty fun to play with friends, and we think that the cooperative chaos and maybe even competitive chaos modes might actually catch on the ladder just a little bit there. There's a lot to do with this, but this series will continue to chronicle the advances of the Trollobattles map mod. It is actually available at the moment. You can check this prototype out. It is available on the EU server right now if you want to mess about with it. Admittedly, just please bear in mind that it is nowhere near being ready under any circumstances. There's a ton of problems there. There's lots of stuff we've got to fix, bugs, and then we've got to make it feature-rich and put in all of the voting systems that work properly. So, yeah, there's a lot to do here, but I think that this could be quite fun, and as an idea, I think that there's a lot of potential hilarity to be had in an observer map where you are able to screw with the people who are currently playing. My name's been Totalbiscuit, and this has been the first episode looking at the development of the Trollobattles mod for StarCraft 2.